Well, indeed, the National Martyrs' Day is a very important political event in China. And for 8 years in a row, there has been celebrations in the Tiananmen Square by the national leaders to commemorate this important day, to mark the significant contributions and sacrifices by the martyrs for the Chinese people's liberation and independence, you name it. And the martyrs we honor are not only those martyrs who laid down their lives ever since 1949. They included all the martyrs who sacrificed their lives since the Opium War. So you are talking about the latter part of the 19th century, throughout the 20th century, up to today. There were hundreds of thousands of these Chinese nationals who braved against all odds and laid down their lives, made the ultimate sacrifices for the liberation of the nation, the independence of the nation, and the happiness of the Chinese people as a whole. So by honoring their great heroic deeds, we are, as a nation, rededicating ourselves to the causes of China's rejuvenation and the continued development and for defending peace and stability in the country. And the National Martyrs' Day is actually back-to-back with a national day, which we celebrate today. So it gives us the somber moment to reflect into the past and look forward into the glorious future ahead of us.
And can you also talk to us about the recent return of remains of Chinese soldiers killed during the Korean War? It happened just about a month ago, actually, in early September.
Indeed, the Korean War was a very important event in the Chinese history. It marked the time when the Chinese nation really rose up to its feet and went into the Korean Peninsula to defend the legitimate interests of the people in North Korea, but also to defend the legitimate interest of China against the aggressions launched by the United States and all those foreign countries who were fighting together with the United States. Now, the Chinese volunteers, as we call them, pushed through to not only the 38th parallel, but they pushed further down, all the way to about 37th parallel. And the remains of those Chinese soldiers who were killed in action, I believe, for the last batch, were mostly lost during that battle. And the location of the battle was between the 38th parallel to the 37th parallel. Now, it had been very difficult to recover their remains, and I think during the past several decades, the government of the Republic of Korea did the amazing thing. They not only did a lot of preservation of the sites, but also did evacuation and recovery of the remains. And through cooperation between China and ROK, these remains were honorably returned back to China. Now, for the younger generation in China, this is truly a very great moment to realize that those Chinese people's volunteers were killed in action about their age, 20-year-old or 90-year-old or 21-year-old, you name it, and they sacrificed for defending the independence of China against all possible odds, because at that time, China was relatively very weak as a military country versus the really superpower of the military power of the United States. However, the Chinese People's Volunteer held the ground, pushed back the American soldiers, and inflicted defeats again and again on the U.S. troops. And I think the younger generation in China should learn the lesson that by standing firm on matters of principle, the Chinese nation, under the leadership of the Communist Party of China, will be invincible against any enemies or hostile forces who want to second-guess the correct roadmap that China is embarked upon. This is the very great, important lessons that all of us in China, especially the younger generation, are learning from the returning of the remains from the Republic of Korea.